Hi everyone, today we are talking about how you can find the slope-intercept equation when you're given either a graph or 2 points. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything we cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we're going to cover. So we're going to cover finding the slope-intercept equation from graphs and also from 2 points. So those are the two different types of problems. Also remember that you can pause the video to jot down important notes, rewind to view information again, and fast forward if you think you got it. Just be careful and make sure you don't fast forward too much that you miss out on anything important. Let's get started with finding slope-intercept equation from a graph. Make sure you pause the video and jot down these steps before moving on. The first step is to find the y-intercept point on the y-axis. Remember, that's our starting point, so you always want to start with that. That's your B. And then you're going to find any other pretty point. When you connect those 2 points, you'll be able to find the slope using rise over run, and then you'll have your slope and y-intercept, and you can put it into y equals mx plus b. So both pieces of information you can find from the graph. The y-intercept is right on that y-axis, and the slope, you'll need to connect 2 different points and use rise over run, but once you got those two, you can substitute them into y equals mx plus b. The second type of question that we're going to go over is how to find a linear equation from 2 points. The first step there is to use the slope formula from those 2 points to find the slope. And then here's where it gets a little tricky. You're going to substitute the x and y value from the same coordinate pair, and you're also going to substitute slope into y equals mx plus b. And you're going to use that to solve for b. So wherever you see x in your y equals mx plus b, you're going to put that x value in. Wherever you see y, you're going to put that y value in, and they have to be from the same coordinate pair. And then you're also going to put in that slope that you found previously. Then that's just going to leave one variable, b, that you can solve. Then when you have that value, you'll have the slope from before and your b. And just like in the previous problem, you're going to put in your slope and y-intercept into y equals mx plus b form. I say that you only put those two in because you still need that y and that x to maintain variable form. So make sure you write down all these steps before we move on and go over some examples. Okay, here is our first example. They want us to find the equation of the line using exact numbers. Go ahead, pause the video and try it on your own first. You can definitely go back and look at those steps as you're working on it. All right, so following those steps, the first thing we need to do is to locate the y-intercept, as always. So we're going to go in alphabetical order. So let's see, our y-intercept is at 4, because that's what the line touches on the y-axis. So we have one piece of information down. That's going to go here later. And then to find the slope, we're going to find 2 pretty points. So one's at 4, and we'll have this other one at 1, 6. And we're going to use rise over run. So we're going to draw a triangle. To get from 4 to 6, we're going up 1 and 2. So that's a positive 2 since we're going up. And then from this point to the last destination, it's going to the right 1. Since it's going to the right, it's also a positive. So positive 2 divided by 1 is a positive 2. So your answer should be y equals 2x plus 4. The slope was 2, going up 2 and over 1, both positive, and the y-intercept was 4. And I can always double check by using 2 other pretty points. So this is going up 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is going over 1, 2. So 4 divided by 2 is also 2. I could have used these two pretty points and drawn my triangle this way. So then it would go down 1, 2. Down is -2. And to the left 1, left is -1. So if you have two negatives, they cancel out and they still become +2. So any way you calculate slope, you should have gotten 2. So the answer here is y equals 2x plus 4. So you're just finding slope and y-intercept, plugging it into y equals mx plus b. Let's do another one. Go ahead and pause the video. Try this problem on your own first. Okay, so as always, we need to put it into y equals mx plus b format. We're going to start with that b, and then we're going to find our slope. So our b is -3. Be careful that you don't put down 6. It's the y-intercept. It's the one going up and down. And then we're finding our slope. We can use these two as pretty points, although there's a couple in between as well. This is going up 1, 2, 3. When we draw our triangle, up 3, so that's positive. And to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to the right 6. This is going to reduce by 3, and that's going to be 1/2, positive 1/2. So our answer is y equals 1/2 x plus -3. So you could also write it as y equals 1/2 x minus 3, but they have a plus sign there, so we got to put in that -3. If you had drawn your triangle differently, let's say you chose these two as your pretty points and drawn your triangle this way, you would go down 1, so that's negative, and to the left 2. Left is negative. So you would also get 1/2 when you reduce those two negatives. Okay, so that's finding the slope-intercept equation from a graph. Let's go ahead and do some practice problems with the other type of question, which is finding slope-intercept from 2 points. So this problem, they are giving you 2 points, 6, -6, and 8, 8. They want you to complete the equation of the line through those 2 points. Use exact numbers. And they've set up the equation with y equals, so it already tells you they want it in y equals mx plus b format. Go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own first. All right, this one was a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to go back to my steps. We want to find the slope using the slope formula, and then we're going to do the substitution stuff to look for b. So let's first find slope from our 2 points. And this is going to be a review of your slope formula. Your slope formula told you that it was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we're going to label these x1, y1, x2, y2. And again, you can switch them around. You can make this x1, y1, and the first one x2, y2. Doesn't really matter. We've talked about how you're still going to get the same answer. There's 4 different ways of doing this. As long as you follow that order, you're good. So we have y2 subtracting y1. So it's 8 minus -6. For the y's, for x's, we have 8 minus, this is a +6, so be careful there. If it's subtracting a -6, you end up with 2 negatives next to each other. If it's subtracting a +6, you just have 8 subtracting 6. So this becomes 8 plus 6 on top, and 8 minus 6 on the bottom, stays the same. 8 plus 6 is 14, 8 minus 6 is 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So our slope is 7. So we have one piece of the puzzle now. Now we're going to substitute our x and our y from the same coordinate pair to solve for b. So what that means is I can use either the x and y from 6, -6 or 8, 8. I'm going to choose 8, 8 because those are both positive. okay? But either way, it could work. So let me show you what it would look like if you substituted it with 8 and 8. So this becomes, instead of y, we're putting down this y value, which is 8. Instead of m, we're putting down 7 because we found that from the slope formula. Multiplied, so I'm going to put in my parentheses to remember it's multiplication, multiplied by my x value of that same coordinate pair is also 8, plus b. b I do not know, that's what I'm solving for. So again, I took my slope from all that work here with the slope formula, and I took my 8 and 8 from one coordinate pair to get there. Then I'm going to solve. So 8 equals 8 times 7 is 56 plus b. I need to solve for b by itself at the end. So I'm going to get rid of the 56 on both sides. 56 minus 56 is 0, so that's why I get b by itself. And 8 minus 56 is negative 48. And you can use your calculator to double check that. So b is equal to negative 48. My equation will be y equals 7x minus 48. So the only things I put into my equation are my slope and y-intercept. That's what we mean by only put in the slope and y-intercept into y equals mx plus b. Because that's all you need for those problems. Just like before, we found the b and the m, and we put those in. We keep the x and the y as variables. Because later on, if someone wants to use that variable, they can plug in their own x and their y. They could plug in 6, negative 6, they could plug in 8, 8, they could put in any other points that lie on that line. So we need to leave x and y open for anybody who needs to use it. Okay? So that's how you solve problems like that. Now, if you had decided you don't want to use 8 and 8, you could have used 6 and negative 6. So let me show you what that would have looked like. So we're going to take that information. Instead of y, we're putting in the y for this point. Instead of m, we're putting in 7. Multiply by, instead of x, we're putting in 6. So notice how we're using 6 and negative 6 from the same points. Those two go together. And then plus b, because we don't know what b is. 8 and 8 go together in their own equation. We're not mixing and matching. Those two don't go together. 8 follows 8, 6 follows negative 6. So that's why we want to make sure that, at least here, I'm color coding it so you can see the difference. And remember, y and x are not in alphabetical order, so you need to switch these when they get into the equation. So you're going to solve it the same way if you decided to use this method. 7 times 6 is 42. And then to get rid of the 42, we're going to subtract 42 on both sides. So 42 minus 42 is nothing. We end up with b. Negative 6 plus negative 42 is negative 48, because those are two negatives being added together. So it becomes a bigger negative. So you can see that it doesn't really matter which order pair you choose. As long as you keep those values together and you solve your problem correctly, you're still going to get the same answer. So it's up to you which pair you want to choose. I just chose 8 and 8 because that eliminates some mistakes of substituting the wrong one in the wrong area, the 8s, right? I couldn't possibly mix them up. Okay, let's do another problem. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own first. All right, so as always, our goal is we're trying to find our slope and y-intercept. We need to find our m and our b. Those are the two things we're trying to find, and then we're going to substitute it back in. So first thing that's easiest is our m, our slope. These look like really friendly numbers too. And remember, I could have reversed that if I wanted to. Yeah, these look like very, very friendly numbers. And remember, if I'm taking the second y and subtracting the first y, in the bottom, I also have to take the second x and subtract the first x. I can't mix them around. I can't go 2 and 1 here and 1 and 2 here. Okay, so y2 minus y1, so that's 2 I don't like that. It's going to give me a negative answer. So 2 minus 4 on top, and x2 minus x1 is 2 minus 1. So we're always, according to our formula, taking that second number and subtracting the first number. Second number subtracting the first number. Okay, 2 minus 4 is negative 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So at the end, it's going to become negative 2, because negative 2 divided by 1 is just negative 2. So my slope is already negative 2. Okay, and that's the first piece of my information. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to figure out my b. To figure out my b, as a refresher, we're substituting x, y, and slope. But the x and y have to be from the same coordinate pair. Here, let me choose 2, too, because there's no way I could mess that up. Basically, anywhere there's a y or an x, I'm going to put a 2 there. The slope is negative 2. And remember, the x was 2, so I'm using these 2. So wherever I see y and x, I'm putting in 2's, plus b. Okay, then I need to solve for b. This is 2 equals negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 plus b. To get rid of this negative 4, I need to add 4, its opposite. Negative 4 and plus 4 is canceled out. I get b left over on the right-hand side. 2 plus 4 is 6. Okay? Again, I could have used these two numbers instead. And instead of y, I would put in 4. So here, since they're different numbers, I got to keep track. 4 equals negative 2 as my slope, multiplied by the x. The x here was 1 plus b. So I have b on its own on the right-hand side. 4 equals negative 2. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 plus b. Get rid of this minus 2 by adding 2 to both sides. I get b on its own. 4 plus 2 is 6. So it really doesn't matter which pair you use, as long as you use them correctly. You don't mix up their orders. So I get a slope of negative 2 from our slope formula, and I got 6 from either one of these methods for my b. And remember, y and x are left alone, because if not, then they're not going to look like an equation anymore. So that's that. That's finding the slope-intercept form from 2 points. This one, like I said, is a little bit more tricky, so you're going to have to do a little extra practice, write down all your work, keep track of all your work. Let me know if you have any questions as you work on these problems, and I will see you in class.